Writing a great thesis. When it comes to essays, it's all about the thesis. When professors talk about an essay's thesis, they mean its main argument or point. Remember, audience and purpose affect everything you write, and that's true about your thesis too. In most professionally written essays, the kind you encounter in a magazine and that you might read in some classes, the thesis might be very different from what your professor expects you to write. In general, professionals know that they have a lot of choices when it comes to writing. If they write an essay, they might have an explicit thesis, but they might not. The thesis might be implied, or it might be buried in the essay or at the end, or there might be a governing idea that gives the essay focus, but no easy to sum up lesson. Professional writers know that they have to push the boundaries of form and use novelty to try and attract readers. If they don't, they might have a hard time finding an audience. And if they don't find an audience, they won't have a job. Let's read this introduction. It's from an essay called A Thimbleful of Sky by Lali Regana. Who would have thought a down jacket would become my most prized possession in the Peruvian rainforest? The only reason I had it along with me in the first place was because it wouldn't fit in the large suitcase I'd left in the headquarters of Posada Amazonas in Puerto Maldonado. I'd laughed as I bunched it through the handles of my duffel, bemoaning the fact that I had to carry it along for a week to be spent in 90-degree heat and light humidity. But this morning, as our canoe chugged up the Chambapata River, I huddled deeper into its luscious folds, blessing it for its warmth as a bitter wind and rain drenched my shivering body. Just yesterday, I had cursed the mosquitoes that forced me to wear long sleeves and pants in the sweltering heat, yet today here I was, freezing beneath a down coat. Was this global warming gone mad, gone wild? Can you tell what the main idea of this essay is? Hint, it's not about global warming, which you might assume if you are following the template of most student writing, where the last sentence of the introduction is always the thesis. Depending on their discipline, student writers often have fewer choices in how they approach their thesis, and that's because their purpose and audience are different from those of professional writers. Your purpose in writing an essay isn't to make a buck. Generally, your purpose is to convince your professor that you've developed mastery over information and or form. Some professors may be delighted with an implied thesis or one that reveals itself in the end, one that looks like professional writing. But in my experience, most professors approach grading essays in an industrial fashion. They grade big stacks of papers at a time. They pick up each one and say, what's the thesis? 9 out of 10 times, the student puts the thesis at the end of their introduction. Every once in a while, they might make it their first sentence. And occasionally, they have a great descriptive first paragraph and put the thesis in the second paragraph. If you don't do one of those things, they might struggle to find your thesis. And that might be a problem, depending on your reader. The thesis is the anchor idea your professor is thinking about while she evaluates your essay. No identifiable anchor idea, no good grade. With our ideas about audience in mind, here are 2 tips for writing your thesis. Make it explicit and make it easy to find. A good thesis usually has 3 things. 1, keywords drawn specifically from the prompt. That's the assignment sheet. Your professor is looking for those words. It helps her know that you're on topic. Use them in your thesis and repeat them or synonyms throughout your paper. 2, an assertion. This is where you state your main point. 3, a justification, rationale, or implication for the assertion. This is the place where many college students drop the ball. They make a claim or assertion, but they don't explain why it matters, or why it's true, or why anyone should care. If they do try to explain one of these things, they often don't go deep enough. But guess what? If you don't have a justification, you don't have a thesis. And just as bad, you don't have focus. The justification takes your broad assertion and makes it a manageable topic or argument. Having a manageable and focused topic will make your life as a writer easier. Let's look at some examples. Let's read these weak theses, very weak theses. In this paper, I will tell you why I think the Civil War happened. Roxane Gay calls herself a bad feminist. This essay will explain why she's wrong. There are many reasons my grandfather is my hero. Do these have keywords from the prompt? Well, we don't know because we don't have the prompt. Let's let that slide for now. 2. Do these theses make an assertion? Have an argument? No, we don't know what this person thinks. We know their general theme. What we don't know specifically is what they think about that theme. Why did the Civil War happen? Why is Roxane Gay not a bad feminist? Be specific. Worse, I bet this writer doesn't know what he thinks, and that will make his job difficult. 3. Do these theses have justifications or rationales? Nope, there is no focus. Again, this makes the writer's job hard. Let's read these. The Civil War happened because of slavery, ideology, and competing economic visions for the country. My grandfather is my hero because he is wise, brave, and can kill alligators with his bare hands. Oh no! These read like 5-paragraph essay theses. I have a whole video that explains why those stink. If you haven't seen it, you should. And let's read these okay, but not great theses. Although many factors contributed to the Civil War, in the end, nothing mattered more than slavery. Although she calls herself a bad feminist, Roxane Gay is actually a pretty good one. My grandfather's ability to stare down rattlesnakes while juggling turtles makes him a heroic figure of masculinity. Again, we don't know the prompt. We'll let that slide. But these theses at least make assertions that are making a specific claim, and we know exactly what that claim is. We know that slavery was the main cause of the Civil War. We know Gay is actually a good feminist. What we don't know is why the writers think what they think. For the writer, that means they will still struggle with focus. For the reader, your professor, that means there's no critical reflection on why any of this matters or what intellectual issue is at stake. These writers need to go deeper. Now, let's read these strong essay theses. Although many factors contributed to the Civil War, in the end, nothing mattered more than slavery. Competing ideas, from free labor and abolitionism in the North to slaveholding ideology in the South, created a schism between the states that had to be resolved. And embedded on all sides were tensions about race and white supremacy. Although she calls herself a bad feminist, Roxane Gay is actually a pretty good one. Her ability to recognize the gendered politics of society while enjoying its problematic popular culture highlight her ability to live a feminist life in a messy, messy world. My grandfather's ability to stare down rattlesnakes while juggling turtles makes him a heroic figure of masculinity, one that I would never want to embody, but will always find exhilarating, one that speaks to older, romantic notions of manhood that are sadly disappearing. Again, we don't know the prompts, but let's assume we've got the keywords in these theses: Civil War, bad feminist, and maybe good feminist, Roxane Gay, hero or heroic, maybe manhood or masculinity. We do know that these theses make assertions. They identify a main idea that the author will explore. But look at what else they do. They narrow the topic, and at the same time, they explain why they think their assertion matters or what it implies. These theses have all the keys to a good thesis. And do you see how the writer has narrowed his work in a way that makes the topic more manageable? At the same time, the writer has gone deep. He has given his reader something critical, and hopefully new and interesting to discover or consider. Did you notice something else about these strong theses? Most were longer than one sentence. Your thesis doesn't have to be one sentence. It can be one or two or three. It can be as long as you need it to be to make your claim and explain why it matters or what is at stake. In many cases, the length of the thesis will depend on the length of your essay. In general, the shorter the essay, the shorter the thesis. You won't be able to defend a really sophisticated argument in a blue book essay. You won't have time. So once again, what is the purpose of what you're writing? Is it to prove you did one reading or listen to a few lectures? Or is it to demonstrate everything you learned in your 10-page paper? The answer will affect the complexity of your thesis. Bottom line, the success of your paper depends on what you've been assigned to do. And there's another bottom line. The success of your paper depends on your thesis. The thesis provides focus, what it looks like, where it goes, how long it is. Those things depend on the circumstances and on what your reader wants. Know your reader. Good luck.